Alright guys, welcome to another video. We are going to be running through the coolers and all of the coolers that the Aristo needs to function correctly. Now, in the last video, it was another cooler video. It was the intercooler, which was for charge air. That is done, dusted, wrapped up. And I moved on to the hydro fan cooler, and if you're not familiar with this car and the build, the Mark III Supras, the SC400s, a few of the Camrys and stuff like that, including the Aristo, the first-gen Aristo, is a hydro fan, which is actually a hydraulically driven cooling fan. It's very cool. Apparently it flows like 3,000 CFM with very little parasitic loss on the engine. So that's great. We kept it. In a previous video, we actually rebuilt the pump for the water pump because it is a water pump and hydraulic pump for the fan has a fan fluid, which is, joke, blinker fluid. It's very similar to that, but it's a real thing. Now, also the power steering cooler, which was just a bar on this car, which is pretty typical on most of these cars, especially JZs. We know that they are a problem when it comes to actually cooling the power steering. Drift cars, big power steering cooler, especially for factory pump JZs. Now, this car did not have a very good cooler. It was just a bar. It would just barely dissipate heat. And we ran into some issues. If you were doing any spirited driving back and forth, the car's heavy. It leans on the power steering a lot. Well, upgraded. And that's installed. And that is plumbed. I'm going to take you through all of that. And lastly is the big transmission cooler. Now, that's an interesting one because I had a lot of plans. As you guys know, sometimes your plans don't actually work. Yeah, this is one of those situations. We have very little time before Airport Alliance. It's actually less than a week away. And the status of the car is this. Typical, right? Well, let me take you through where we mounted everything, how it was plumbed, and all of that. Flip you around, let's get into that. All right, you can see the floor. All I've been doing is working nonstop, trying to just get everything into here. Now, first thing we talked about just now was the hydro fan. As you can see right there, engine fan fluid. Crazy, right? Well, what it used to have, take you guys around here, what it used to have was kind of similar to the power steering cooler. I'll show you the stock stuff here. So this is a finned version of the power steering cooler, but it is finned, which this thing could be actually used for something else, maybe a different style of cooler. I'm going to hang on to that thing. It's actually pretty cool. It would work for like a hot rod or something like that, maybe for power steering. But here is the power steering. As you can see, no fins or anything, just relying on pure volume and what little dissipation you get from a steel tube. Now, if it had been something like this, it probably would have been in better shape. But let's see what I put on it. It was what I didn't think was going to work. It is these guys, a Durali 24-inch cooler. It's like a double pass, so it comes in here, goes across, loops back, goes there. The part number is here. It's a 13225. This thing's pretty cool. It's got -6 inlet and outlet, which I just converted it to a barb. And let me grab this light so we can see anything. Now, intercooler's back in place. As you can see right here. We have two coolers down here. Power steering and the hydro fan. Now, what I'm going to do is insert a picture. Again, I'm running out of time. I haven't been filming, but I'm going to insert a picture right here of the brackets that I made to hold everything. And basically, I utilized the factory holes for those coolers and just used some aluminum angle iron, or angle aluminum, extruded aluminum angle. And then some pieces of just flat stock that I bent, and it worked out really well. They are staggered, like the top one is off one way, the bottom was off the opposite way, just to get the lines on, because the amount of room you actually have, you need to actually be able to fit lines. So, the fan cooler lines go under the exhaust side. I'm going to call it the exhaust side. So, the driver's side, they go underneath the core support. So, I did the same exact thing. That worked out really well. I made a huge mess everywhere. I covered myself in fluid. So, yeah, again, I'm kind of glad I didn't have the camera out, because I would have looked like a dum-dum. Okay, so you can't really see that because I have also modified the bottom plate to fit the front mount, because there was a nice piece of like aero slash splash, like splash pan, air director, whatever you want to call it, ducting. And yeah, it didn't line up anymore because there's an intercooler there. So I'm going to show you guys where the power steering lines go. Again, they go in the factory place, but at least you can see these. All right. You can see them right in there. You're supposed to be able... There we go. You can see them right there. That's the OEM connection spot right there. And they loop. They were originally metal. They went up and into that hole. There's an existing hole. And up into there. There is a chance that I will redo those with hard lines later, maybe. We'll see. You can make a much tighter bend with a hard line than you can rubber lines. So those might get changed in the future if I ever have an issue with them. Probably won't change them unless I have an issue. So next, the transmission cooler. The transmission cooler was giant. And originally, I was going to put it next to this charge pipe right there. As you guys can see, it's not there. So, where did it go? I took the easy way out. It's hiding. I used some of those little pass-throughs where you can like add them to a radiator. There is an air gap here, so I'm not too worried about the heat from the transmission cooler actually heat soaking the intercooler. I don't think. I'm thinking I'm going to put a fan right here. I got this guy that I was going to put on the transmission cooler, and that actually fits kind of nicely down in here. So not only would having this thing on the back of the intercooler just draw more air when we're sitting at idle, or when we're sitting, like in traffic and stuff, it'll actually blow some fresh air on the coolers back here. Lines actually are the same lines that were on that cooler. That used to be right here. Well, lines worked. I pulled them back through. Everything goes together. There's 4 lines. You got 2 transmission and 2 hydrofan lines coming up into here. You can see they loop. There's one here, and there's one right here. There's a P-clamp, a couple of P-clamps back there. Just keeping this guy from like walking all over the place. These are all pretty secure. Horns are back on, my sweet little Bomex horns. All right, yeah, lots of coolers on these cars. To start from the front, I'm going to take you guys through. We got the intercooler. On one side of the intercooler, there's a transmission cooler. Behind the transmission cooler, there's a hydrofan and a power steering cooler. Behind that is the AC condenser. Behind that is the radiator. It's a lot. It's a lot of coolers. Like, man, you know, and there's really no way to get around that. If you want this thing to work right, you know, like, I want this thing to live a long time, being able to beat the crap out of it, and adding coolers and keeping fluids cool and just having everything efficient is the only way to do this. But there's a lot stacked up right here. Again, this is where it comes back to, I left the hydrofan because it's supposed to pull 3,000 CFM on high. I've only seen this thing actually be on high speed once. That was blasting down the interstate with the AC blasting in like 95-degree weather. That's the only time I've actually seen this thing on high. I feel like that says something. Maybe it's just me. I don't think it is. I think that's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to add the fan, and it will be controlled by the Nexus. And that way, if the IATs creep above like 100 or, you know, whatever, we can kick the fan on it and chill this intercooler out. So I think I'm going to do that real quick. I am just going to use those like pass-through zip tie things. I'm probably going to get some flack for that, but they work really well. I've used them on my drift car on the intercooler for a long time, and they are still on there. So I think I'm going to do that real quick. And after that, we're getting pretty close to being able to fit the bumper. And after that, we probably should finish the exhaust because it's still just dumped. All right, fan time. Okay, I changed again. Went back to it with the same direction, but different approach of getting these guys in there. Stuff can be really annoying. But here we are, we're doing it, we're doing the damn thing. All right, in there. I got to pull something back apart, of course, that I already did to get the bottom ones on. Make my life a little easier. Do that. Show you guys this. All right. I don't love that these are all across this thing, but luckily I think the bumper actually is going to like cut a lot of that off, and then same with up through here. So we really shouldn't be able to see it that much, but we have a fan. Now, that is going to be controlled by the Nexus ECU, VCU, ECU, which we'll talk a little bit more about another time. It's going to be, once we actually have time to like fully dyno this thing, we're going to drive it around a little bit, do some fuel changes for the turbo, just to make sure that it's really safe for the drive home from IA. This fan's probably not going to be hooked up yet, but because I want to be able to just hook it all up easily, I mounted it so that it would be easy to hook up later. So what I'll probably do is leave that unhooked for now, do a video on that, and talking about the Nexus later. Got some hookup stuff to do before we even are able to drive home. EGT needs to be hooked up. The line from the compressor cover to the lower port on the wastegate, that at minimum needs to be hooked up. It might be just as easy to hook up the boost controller and all of that at the same time. So, might do that. Might not. I think I might save that for another video. I think we're just going to run wastegate, which I set the springs at about 14 pounds, which is about what I was running before, so that's good. It's just going to be a lot more efficient. I'm rambling. But we're not far off from basically being ready to get the downpipe done, and this thing is going to be drivable. So I think as far as the cooler video, which is this video, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. We've made a lot of progress. Still got to get the bumper on. Maybe I'll put the splash pan on. Maybe do something like that. But other than that, we're getting close. Downpipe's going to be a job. It is going to be a job, especially not being on a lift currently. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I might have to maybe run over to my friend Lyndon's, use his lift. He's got a TIG, all of that stuff there. And I've got all of my materials here. So the next video will absolutely be the exhaust and the downpipe. So that's it for now. More videos coming very soon. And then I'm going to shoot a video while we're at IA. I will be working, so it'll be kind of a minimalistic, just let you guys check it out. I'm not driving, like drifting, so got a lot of cool things in store while we're down there, but that's it for now. See you guys soon. Wish me luck, guys.